Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me for this video. I'm going to try to keep it in frame. I'm not sure what's going on this morning, but anyway, I built this piece for one of our teachers who is teaching basic geometry. And this teacher is teaching this to adults. And the unit in the book is about geometry, introduction to geometry. So I will show you how I constructed this folder in just a second. I used a folder that we were ready to recycle. It was an old student folder, but I folded it so that it opens. This is sort of like the Lapbook that you may have seen with homeschool students. It's just something that helps teach the unit. So on the front, you have the title. You also have a vocabulary list. And just to fill in space, I added these two little things to help students understand that geo means earth, metry, meter, metric mean measure. And these are all the vocabulary words that students will learn in this unit. Now, my teacher is teaching this unit across 8 classes for a total of 1 month worth of classes. She meets with students twice a week, and so they're doing this one pocket per class. Just open this up so that they would spend 1 day on each of these pockets. I would not give students all the pockets at one time. I would do just the day that you're working on. And that gives them an incentive to come to class because they know they will need the pieces. You can definitely give them makeup work, but I think it's best done in a classroom. I would let the students cut out and fold the pieces. I think they learn a lot about spatial reasoning by doing that, but you can do it however you want to do it. So on the first day, I would introduce students to vocabulary. There are 35 vocabulary words, and remember those are on this list. So I made a flashcard for each vocabulary word. These are a little bit small. Normally I would enlarge them a little bit, but to fit them in this book, I did downsize just a little bit. But for example, here is the diameter one. And I thought I had alphabetized this list, but I guess I didn't. I meant to. You could have students put those in alphabetical order if you wanted to practice that. But there's one of these for each of those words. I would introduce this vocabulary as I'm introducing the pocket. So for example, pentagon would be a 2-dimensional shape. Square pyramid is a 3-dimensional solid. So I recommend not giving students all these words at one time, because this could be an overload for beginning students. But if you've taught geometry before, you know the excessive amount of vocabulary that you encounter. Rectangle could go either as a 2-dimensional or a quad. I put it with quad. So this is a good way for students to use this little book once they finish with it, by sorting these into the proper categories. Circumference there's not a pocket for circumference, but I would introduce that with perimeter. Hexagon, I could do this all day, so I won't digress. But the flashcards, I would introduce a few at a time. Pick out the ones that apply for that particular day and just talk about those. And I'm going to lay these to the side for a minute. Okay, on the day that you cover 2-dimensional shapes, I would spend some time going over the attributes of these shapes. And let me just move this so you can see. I gave you a circle. You can talk about diameter and radius. There's a trapezoid. One of the things that I truly like about this is that students can hold these. They can touch them. They can turn them. One of the things that I struggled with when I taught geometry is that getting students to understand that the attributes of the shapes do not change. simply because you rotate them. So if this is a trapezoid, this is a trapezoid, and this is a trapezoid. I would have them turn these over and write the key things I want them to remember on the backs. And that way they have them to study without necessarily messing up the front of the shape. One thing that I would call their attention to is that dashed lines are imaginary, and that is just there to help us visualize, but it is not important in terms of calculation. I don't mean that. Let me say it this way. Let's suppose we were finding perimeter of this shape. Perimeter is the outer edge. The dashed line is there to show me the height of the triangle, but it doesn't factor in to the addition of the edges. Okay, so those are the 2-dimensionals. And I already see ways that I can improve this, and I'll show you those as we come to them. You have the quadrilaterals. There is a trapezoid. Again, there are several of those. One way that I need to improve this is to close these pockets off, because these come out the tops. The 3-dimensionals. This is another way that I would like to improve on this. I would like to give you a cube that actually folds up into a cube so students can see the dimensions of the cube. But here are some basic ones. These are not all covered in the book. If you're using Tape Tutor E, you will not see a sphere. You will not see a cylinder. Those are in the next level of the book. But I went ahead and put them in there so that you could see them. Color is irrelevant here. It just happened to be, I had a space left on my pink page, so I added in what I could. Color's not significant at all. You could print these on white. I would go through and have students to label, for example, that this is an edge, this is a face, this is a vertex. Get them used to that vocabulary in context. It will help. Okay, then to teach area in square units, I found this one on the internet, and I gave you the source. These are just little pieces that you can go through and help students to calculate the area. You could say, what is the area of the green squares, or the green area? What is the white area? Incidentally, these are great for teaching percents as well. They're 100 blocks. So these are just getting them used to the concept of square units. And this is a lesson in the tape book, so I built it completely around that. Then when you get ready to do the area formula, I would start with this piece where you count the squares and then learn to write the formula based on this image. So instead of teaching the formula and then the squares, teach the squares and then the formula, and they will be able to understand the concept of square units. And there are several of those in here to practice on. Again, the color is not significant. I just had some extra space on that page, so I put them in there. And then we move to perimeters. These are basic perimeters. And again, I gave you the source of these. I just found images online, but I wanted to tell you, I wanted to give credit to the designer. And then composites. These are the ones that are not as easy to calculate on perimeter. I don't think they have you to do areas of composites, but you could, at least the rectangular ones, because they've had that length width formula. Here's one with fractions, 7.5. So this would be an advanced one for that level. Have them to change that fraction to decimals, or use a calculator that does fractions. Talk about what centimeters and millimeters are, also meters. Those are good times to bring in those measurements. So this is the content of the unit, folded up in this thing. Now, on the back, and this definitely needs improvement, I put a flip thing. I should have had it to go inward so that it would fold this way. That would help to hold in the pieces. It would also mean that the book is not flopping around all over the place. But in this particular one, I did it this way. I just cut a piece of cardstock to fit. I folded it and glued it down. If you want it to fold outward, you can absolutely do that. And this is vocabulary practice. So these flashcards relate directly to these words. This is multiple choice. And, for example, an expression that tells us how to do math. Choices are circumference, formula, rhombus, perpendicular. Of course, the answer is formula, an expression, and that matches pretty closely, not exactly, the definition on the flashcard. A recipe to solve the problem. So the correct answer there would be B. I also gave you a crossword puzzle. This one is 2 pages of vocabulary, so it's actually 3 because it runs over a little bit here. But here is the crossword puzzle. Number 1 across, a box with rectangular faces. The key is a box, so that's a prism, that's a solid, and that would be a rectangular prism. The distance around a shape with angles, that's 4 across, that's perimeter. So again, these match back to those flashcards. If students can do these 2 exercises without help, they understand the vocabulary, I would say. These are not easy. I would not give these out on the first day. This is an end of unit thing. When they've been exposed to all of these, start with these, and then let them try these, or you could do it however you want to do it. Okay, I am going to film videos that show you how I would teach each of these pockets, but that's just how I would do it. You do it however you want to, because your ideas are probably much better than mine, and I would be interested in your feedback. If there's something that you would like to see done differently, let me know, because that will be very helpful to me. Again, our teacher, the person I wrote this for, would use this for a 1-month class. This is not something you do all in one day. You could definitely store this down in a page protector. On the next one, I'm going to rework this because it's not in the best place. Another issue that I'm seeing is this is very floppy. So I might even try to reinforce this somehow so it wants to fold this way. And I don't want it to do that. So let me show you how I made this, and that will bring this video to a close. I just have a file folder that is recycled. The student is no longer in our program. She graduated. So I took a paper trimmer. You could do this with scissors, however you want to, and I trimmed off this part. Now, I've seen folks fold them this way and they line up. That's perfectly fine. But to get my cover on there, I would have to cut it, and I didn't want to do that. So I just brought this into my paper trimmer. I'm right-handed, so let me go this way. And I cut it right here. So I'm not sure you can see that, but I'll show you what I did. So I just made a cut. I separated those. So I cut off this part, and I left this perfectly straight. Or it's not perfectly straight. There's a little, no, this one is actually. Different file folders are a little bit different. So the ones I have are not, this is not as wide, but it will work, whatever you have. And you can throw this away or recycle it. And then you open this up. There's the curve. I knew there, that's okay. Just ignore that. And then you're gonna fold to the middle. And that's where you get this instability right down through here. So you could definitely reinforce that. But just fold this piece to that fold line in the center. And I used a bone folder to crease that really well. and then fold this one to the middle, and you have it. So there's the base of your folder, and then you can start putting in the pieces. If you want to reinforce it, I would put a piece of cardstock down here right now. I think in future ones I'm going to do that because it's just too floppy. We call this a hot dog fold with elementary kids, but it needs to be reinforced. So this is the base piece. The pieces that I'm sending to you will reinforce this base piece, or not reinforce, it's very early, I'm sorry. It will provide you with the activities for this base piece. And when I get videos filmed of each pocket, I will post those. If you want to look at them or share them, you can. They will be geared towards students. So I'll go through the examples in each of these pockets and show you how I intended them to be used. But however you want to use them is fine. Have a good day. Bye-bye.